Please rise for silent invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk call the roll?
Here.
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 Welcome back, Robin.
Robin is back. We have a 5th seat filled up here for the first time since November.
Yeah.
Jack, welcome to the board.
Thank you.
This is actually the first time we've been allowed to talk about business with you.
That's right.
Do that sunshine law thing.
Exactly.
But we're glad to have you up here. We look forward to your contributions, and we're glad that the District 1 seat is filled in the interim until the election can be held.
Well, thank you for your confidence. Appreciate it.
Public comments on consent agenda items only. Any items 6 through 10. Any comments from the public on those items? There being none, agenda approval. If you don't mind, I'd like to have a quick comment about item 10, but I've got no problem with approving the rest of the agenda and then the consent agenda.
Do we need a motion to move?
Need to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting first.
A motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I need a motion for the consent agenda items 6 through 9.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Call the roll.
Councilman Wiles.
I didn't need one.
Yeah, approved.
Councilman Bastian.
Yes.
Councilman Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Tremont.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes.
Mayor, real quick,
Mhm.
you pulled 10 or you're commenting on 10?
We pulled 10, and basically I just,
Was there, okay. Was there a vote on that?
we did not vote on 10. The motion was for 6 through 9.
Did you vote to pull 10 from the consent agenda?
They have not made a motion to pull 10. They motioned to approve 6 through 9.
Mr. Parliamentarian?
No, I'm just,
Okay.
I want to make
move
sure
to-
I'm clear on what's going on. I'm
I'll
not
move
saying
to.
we're wrong.
I'll move to pool 10.
No, he just wants to comment on it.
Open 10 up for discussion?
Yes.
That's your motion?
Yes.
May I have a
Open 10
second?
up for discussion.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Item 10, in the past, we have not had to worry about a canvassing board for an election because the county
Yeah.
always takes care of that function, so we have to do that for ourselves. I just wanted to make sure that we were comfortable with the proposed canvassing board. Our city clerk, her assistant, and Jake Johansson. Do you guys feel like we need an elected official on that board also, or are we good with that?
No. I think
I
we're
don't
good.
think we do.
If you're fine, I mean, I would do it if you wanted it, but if you're happy with it as proposed, I'll be
Yeah,
more than
yeah,
happy to take the night off and call Jake and see how it's going from time to time.
I think we're good.
Okay, and with that regard, may I have a motion to approve Resolution 1911?
So moved.
We have a motion from the Vice Mayor and a second from Councilman Bastian. Call the roll.
Councilman Wiles.
Yes.
Councilman Bastian.
Yes.
Councilman Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Tremont.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0. Haven't been able to say that in a while. With that, council is in recess as we do the annual meetings of corporations. I'll turn
All right.
the gavel over to, I think this one, your commissioner or president?
Yes. All the above.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're both on there. Okay, so this would be the joint annual required meeting of members and directors of City Center Corporate Park Property Owners Association. I call the annual joint meeting of the members and board of directors of City Center Corporate Park Property Association to order. Can I have a roll call, please?
Donald Burnett.
Here?
Drew Bastian.
Here.
Scott Stiltner.
Here.
Chase Tremont.
Here.
Okay, second item of business, kind of a motion to accept the notice of the meeting.
Move to accept.
Second.
Second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're good. Okay, item 3, do I have a motion to approve minutes of January 16th, 2018 meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Perfect. Opposed? We're good. Okay, next order of business will be election of members to the Board of Directors.
One more item, excuse me.
Yes, ma'am.
You've got two boards, the Board of Directors and the Design Review Board minutes from January 16. Item 4.
Okay, I don't have that one on mine, but okay. Or is that on the next meeting? Or-
No, that's item 4.
Okay.
You have a motion from me to approve those minutes?
Oh, excuse me, we combined them.
No, Margaret, you're right. I need a second on that motion to approve the design review board minutes.
I motion to approve the minutes for the Design Review Board.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, they're approved. Can we move to item 4 now, okay. Election of the members of Board of Directors. Do I have a motion to elect the following to serve on the Board of Directors? Don Burnett, Drew Bastian, Scott Stiltner, Chase Tremont, and the person elected to council in the special election on April 30th with the interim, Councilman Wiles' appointment filling the position until the election.
So moved.
Second?
Can I have a second? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
You are looking at the wrong form. That's the next one. The one pager is next. That's why you have this off.
I had them on top. I apologize for that.
That's okay.
They're very similar.
They are, this one just has a couple more, okay. Design board.
Now you know why I had Robin print the script for you.
Now you're on number 6.
Yeah, okay, now we're good. Okay, any further business to be brought before the members? Hearing none, we'll move on to the business of the Board of Directors. Election of officers of the Board of Directors.
I'd like to nominate Chase Tremont, Chairman.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You are elected. Okay.
Thank you.
Do I have a nomination for vice
I'd
chairman,
like to
please?
nominate Drew Bastian, vice chair.
You gotta speak fast.
I can't second that.
Still,
so I need
I'll
a
second that one.
Still a little
Okay,
haze
we
from
have
the
a-
last one.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're good there.
Anything I can nominate Don for?
Yes.
Yeah, after I
Right
nominate
now.
Scott Stiltner for president.
Also, I'll need a nomination for president of this
I just
board.
nominated Scott.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There being none. Do I have a nomination for vice president?
Don. So moved.
Second.
So I move to nominate Don.
Move the nomination down. We have a motion by Tremont, second by Stiltner. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 We're
Opposed? None, we're good.
We're running out of people, Jack.
Okay, this one, item E, I'll need a nomination for secretary of the board.
I would like to nominate the seat holder for District 1 in the interim, Jack Wiles, and then afterwards, the winner of the election, once they're seated, to become secretary.
Second.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There being none. Item F, can I have a motion to elect Dr. Scott Niels for the treasurer of this board?
Dr. Scott Niels, I nominate him for treasurer.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There being none.
Anybody who wears a bow tie has got to be part of this.
Yes. Okay. New business, appointment of registered agent. Do I have a motion to appoint Dr. Scott R. Niels as registered agent effective with the filing of the 2019 annual report?
So moved.
Second.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There being none. Okay. Any further business to be brought before this board of directors? Anything? There being none, we'll move on to the business of the Design Review Board. Okay, we're going to go through this again. Item 9A, Need a nomination to elect chairman for the one-year term.
Nominate Vice Mayor, or Mr. Chase Tremont.
Second.
Alrighty. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There being none, we're good. Item 9B, nomination to elect vice chairman for the one-year term.
Nominate Mr. Drew Bastian.
Second.
So, okay, we have a nomination and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I'm sorry, I missed that second.
Chase, I'm sorry, Robin.
That's all right, thank you.
Okay, opposed, there being
Who
none.
wants to get it right?
9B, that one's me. Okay, I think we have one more to go. There's another page here. Okay. Is there any further business of this design review board? Don't think we have anything. That's for the year. There being none, this annual meeting of the members, directors, and the design review board is adjourned. Okay, now I can get to the correct page. So we'll go through this one again.
And just do what you did before, but only it applies this time.
Yes. Okay, I will call the annual joint meeting of the members and board of directors of City Center Corporate Park Property Owners Association to order. Can I have a roll call, please?
Don Burnett,
Present?
Drew Bastian,
Here.
Scott Stiltner,
Here.
Chase Tremont.
Here.
Can I have a motion to accept the notice of the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Sing it. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the January 16, 2018 meeting, please?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Being none. Item 4, election of the members of the Board of Directors. Can I have a motion to elect the following to serve on the Board of Directors? Mayor Don Burnett, Councilman Drew Bastian, Councilman Scott Stiltner, Councilman Chase Tremont, and the person elected to the council in special election on April 30th, 2019, with the interim appointment filling until said election.
So moved.
Need a motion? Second?
And a second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There being none. Election of officers. Can I have a nomination to elect the following officers?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to go ahead and nominate the slate at chairman. I'd like to nominate Chase Tremont. I don't know how I'm coming with your name all of a sudden. Vice chairman, I'd like to nominate Drew Bastian. As president, I'd like to nominate Scott Stiltner. As vice president, myself, Don Burnett. As secretary, the office holder, both interim and permanent for District 1. And as treasurer, Dr. Scott R. Niels.
Perfect.
Second.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Can I have a voice vote? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There being none, motion carries. New business, appointment of registered agent. Do I have a motion to appoint Dr. Scott R. Niels as registered agent effective with the filing of the 2019 annual report?
So moved.
And seconded.
Second.
It's the bow tie.
Yes, sir. The new guy in the bow tie, perfect. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Good, motion carries. Is there any further business of this board? None? There being none, this meeting is also adjourned.
Good job.
Which brings us back to reconvening of council.
Yes.
Citizen participation non-agended. Mr. Michael Dalton. Come on down.
I'd like to request that my neighbors come up here with me. I'll stand up so you see the number of people here involved. These are all property owners. The reason why I've come before you is
Do me a
because,
favor, just say your name in the microphone for the record.
my name's Michael Doughton.
Thank you.
My address is 1124 Margate Court, and I am approaching you due to the construction occurring at 5414 Riverside. The dwelling that was put there is many times larger than my 1,800 square foot home, and I'm concerned about encroachment of drainage issues there into the river. The water runoff from the building that is currently under construction and not finished will exit the roof at a extremely high velocity, so I'm concerned about significant erosion issues that could have a long-term adverse effect on the entire city, really the city and state. So I'm here to request that somebody look into this.
414.
What was the address of the property?
The
5414 Riverside Drive, which is, what, just south of Niver?
yes,
Okay.
Is that the property where they had the fire a couple years back?
No, that's further south.
Oh, that's further south, okay.
right. There's also significant issues with parking based upon the size of that building. Nobody's indicated to me what the new structure would be used for, or
It's
how
a
it would be
residential
maintained.
zone, right?
Right. So.
Have you already spoke to somebody in community development?
Nobody spoke to me whatsoever. The
No,
construction just
have you
actually-
contacted anybody in community development?
No, this is, I was
Okay.
approached by my
Okay, all right.
neighbors to show up,
Okay.
so I'm
Gotcha.
just
Tell you
actually the
what,
first one
what
speaking.
I'll ask the city
Is this
manager.
the property that's next to that, there's like a little boat or RV
Yes.
storage compound right there? Okay.
Yes, yes. I'm gonna have the city manager have somebody reach out to you. We have your address and phone number here so that we can make sure you know what's going on. And if you have issue with that, then by all means come back, but we'll make sure that we get you the information.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wayne Walker.
I'm for the same reason, except this thing looks like someone built Noah's Ark. It's huge. So when I tell you, I've lived here 10 years and y'all are doing a wonderful job. We live in a beautiful city. I walk the river every morning and every night. And never had a break-in, not a car break-in, not of anything. So the police are doing their job. The community is a safe little community. It's not a wealthy area, except right from Dunlawton when you come down, the beautiful homes. And it's starting to get better since the hurricane. Each house is getting a little better. They're single-family homes. The property that he's talking about has a single-family home. I've lived there 10 years, and no one's lived in it. But in front of it, every day I come home, I look at trash, washing machine, dryers, refrigerators. When the garage doors open, there's people who make my skin curl like they don't belong in my neighborhood. And the garage doors open and there's stuff stored in there like it's being used as a business, not a home, not a dwelling that people would live in. Like someone bought it and said, hey, let's use this as our storage in our office. There's 2 junk cars. One's a white van and one's a yellow car, and they've been there for probably 4 or 5 years. Sometimes they sleep in the van right along where I walk my puppy. They wake up in the morning, pee in the bushes. I shouldn't have to see that, and the city should know this. I've never complained. I thought it'd be something temporary that would go away, and it hasn't gone away. And now there's a structure the size of a Holiday Inn that's 3 stories high. I'm a first cul-de-sac from Niver south, and you can, from my window on my couch where I sit and watch TV, the 3rd floor just stared right in me. So it's not just me. I go to talk to my neighbor, and he showed me his backyard, which I've never seen in the 10 years I've lived there. We've just talked. It's a 3-story structure, so usually you have your neighbor, you look over the fence, hey, how are you? I don't know how he lives seeing this whole backyard with a 3-story structure, and it was elevated 5 feet before they put the first elevation. So there's about 8 doors on that side. Of the 8 doors, when they walk, his 6-foot fence, here's his top of his 6-foot fence, they're down at his house, their waist is about right here on the 1st floor. Then there's a 2nd floor and a 3rd floor. It's ridiculous. I don't even know how it got through zoning.
I can be honest with you, I'm unfamiliar with the property, but I'm gonna ask the city manager to do the same thing and
If
reach
they
out to you.
just drove by it, they would
And
go like this.
Then what
How
I'm
did
also
that
gonna ask you
happen?
to, your time's up, but we can talk offline about it.
No problem.
But I'm
Thank you
also
for
gonna
your-
ask, because you've also brought up potential code enforcement issues that
So the
code
chief-
enforcement would drive
Chief's
by.
already gonna look into it from a code perspective, and,
Please do.
Tim Berman will reach out to both, residents about the property.
Thank you so much for
And
hearing
I
me, and
have
y'all are
Yes,
doing a
sir.
wonderful job.
And
Thank
can
you.
you introduce yourself on the record, please?
Just say your name into the mic.
My name is Wayne A. Walker, and I live at 1134 Margate Court.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Wayne.
Mr. Walker.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Council comments, let's start with Scott.
I don't have much this evening, but I did want to wish a special happy birthday to Mary Whitmire, one of our VIPs at the Port Orange Police Department. She is 95 years young and still serving the community as a volunteer, and has already served for 35 years. So happy birthday to her. That's all I got for you tonight.
I was gonna recognize Mary, he did it, so I'm good.
Okay.
I have nothing tonight, not at all. I was also gonna recognize Mary, so.
Oh, yeah, you were.
Sure, okay.
I wanna recognize Mary.
But I do wanna welcome, Jack Wiles to the.
Yes, welcome, Jack.
Jack,
Thank you.
seeing as it's your turn, you want to recognize Mary also?
Well, I'll recognize Mary, by all means. I got a couple things, first time out, so hopefully it's not out of order, but I got a call from actually an email from someone that's in the Sleepy Hollow subdivision. I talked to the city manager about it. It was a citizen tracker complaint about potholes and also the culverts in that particular subdivision. I understand it's being worked on and probably will be rectified next year. I was just hoping that maybe for the benefit of the people in that area that we could get maybe those barricades removed from the neighborhood. They've been sitting out in front of his home for about 6-9 months now, so hopefully we can see what we can do about a temporary fix and get those removed.
We've talked to Jake about that, so, okay.
Yeah.
Sleepy Hollow is, something that's gonna be designed and taken care of as soon as we can get the money to do it. It's on the list. As you well know, Virginia Monroe was last year, Howe Street this year, but we're gonna try to take care of Sleepy Hollow internally and with St. John's money and not wait for the state. It's got significant flooding issues and this problem is just part of it, so it's on our list.
The only other, thank you, Jay, appreciate that. The only other concern is the bridge. The bridge, one side lane is closed on the weekends, well, all week for that matter, but on the weekends it really backs up all the way past Spruce Creek Road. And traffic is kind of a nightmare. I'm just curious if there was a timeline on that bridge being resolved to answer some of the people's
DOT
questions.
says April, and I'm hoping the DOT can finish in April, because, yeah, it's a mess down there.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Mayor, if I can just comment on that real quick for Jack's benefit in case you get any more questions. So at a recent TPO meeting, there was some discussion about that and some concern where people are projecting that they're working on one side of the bridge and the same amount of time will have to be applied. That's not actually the case. So they're working up underneath the bridge. They're accessing that from just that one side. Now there may be a small amount of time, from what I understand, where they do have to transition to the other side. That will definitely not occur during Bike Week. They intend to I think, cease what they've got going on during that period of time. But for overwhelmingly, the majority of the project will all be done by just using the one eastbound side lane. Obviously, the westbound would even be a much bigger issue. So, and their timeline that we have heard is definitely April time frame to wrap it up. So, hopefully that'll happen.
Okay.
Did they
I know it's too much trouble to take everything away and remobilize and all that for weekends because everybody's going to the beach back and forth. It seems like it's
Yeah, it is a
real issue.
nightmare.
Well, even during the week, it's no picnic.
Yeah. There's been some concern about the trail down Halifax, some dialogue on that. I'm getting some phone calls, pro and con, on that, so I don't know, I know where we're at on it. I know there's going to be more conversations. I'll be more than happy to participate in those, and I think Jake and Tim have a meeting scheduled down there coming up, so whatever I can do to help in that area, but there's still some undecided folks down there as to how they want to proceed with that and what their thoughts are. always one of those things where a lot of people like the idea, and it is a great idea, but it's one of those where I think not in my backyard type, conversations for
understand
some
that,
of
and-
the folks living there.
Honestly, and it hasn't even been engineered yet, so I don't
Right.
even know what I'm talking about.
Right,
So.
exactly. It's a ways out, I understand. That's all I have.
Oh.
And by the way, opening day of baseball, I think, is
This Saturday.
this Saturday,
Yep.
8:45 at Field 2, which unfortunately I'll be out of town, but it's always a great event that the city puts on. So Susan, thank you for all your work and your team.
She better have a baseball ready for me to throw out, that's for
There you
sure.
I'm gonna miss it for the first time in 6 years because I'll be working.
Well, then I'll take Drew's baseball.
There you go.
So I'm
There you go.
unable to be there also.
Item 14, Environmental Advisory Board report. It's a John Macaluso sighting. It is.
Good evening, everyone. Mr. Mayor, Council, staff. John Macaluso, Chairperson, Environmental Advisory Board. A brief update on what's happened in the last 3 or 4 months. We met in January, and first item was election of officers. The officers remain the same as they were in 2018, myself as chairperson, and Nancy Vaughn as vice chairperson. We discussed some items on the agenda, Riverwalk development. I've directed the board members to visit the site, develop any questions and concerns from an environmental concern regarding future development, and address any city and staff with those questions or concerns. So we'll get a little bit ahead of the game before the design is complete. Resolution regarding, relating to the list of trees. We've been working on the tree ordinance and the tree resolution for the last 2 years, the year that I've been here. Basically, Margaret Tomlinson, Construction Engineering Manager, and Tim Berman, Community Development Director, provided us with a plan for moving forward on the tree resolution. A list of trees were supplied to the EA Board. The EA Board has been directed to review the list and bring any questions or concerns to our special meeting that we had planned back in February. And we were going to review that list during that special meeting that was scheduled for February 22nd. Unfortunately, we did not have a quorum that day. We had 4 members of our board absent. So we have to move that over to our April meeting. If you're familiar with the Rain Tree subdivision, there's a discussion going on regarding the entrance off of Spruce Creek Road. There's a large live oak tree in the road divider at the entrance, and the road is raised in both directions from the roots. We had Ronnie Buttram, our Deputy Director of Public Works, in attendance to discuss the options in that area. Initial cost estimate to preserve the tree was presented by Margaret Tomlinson at about $400,000. The EAB discussed the options and asked for a more extensive cost estimate on 3 options that we put out. Root pruning, road repaving, and yearly route maintenance is one option. Road reconstruction included in that, and tree removal and replacement. So we want to take another look at those options at our next meeting and come back with a recommendation.
Okay.
And see where that goes from a cost estimate point of view.
Wow, 400,000.
We also discussed for the future Port Orange Family Days. Environmental Advisory Board would love to have a booth in the fall and push some of our environmental actions that we'd like to see in the city to the public. Another topic that came up, which has been a hot topic lately, if you've been following the papers and local issues, recycling. Environmental Advisory Board members have requested, and we have an interest in review of the city's recycling plan once it's drafted and before it's approved. So we'd like to take a look at it and work with the city on that before approval of the recycling ordinance or any new recycling plan. And again, as our special meeting was canceled, so the tree resolution will move on to the April meeting. Hopefully we can continue that. Tim Berman has indicated at the next council meeting, I believe he's going to present part of our resolution for discussion, and we'll pick it up from there at our next meeting.
Very good. Quick question, John.
Yes, sir.
Just the tree preservation, 400,000, does that include estimated cost for road resurfacing, et cetera, et
Yes,
cetera?
I believe it
The
does.
whole project?
Yes.
Is 400,000.
Way I understood it.
Okay. What happens, do you know of a cost if you don't preserve the tree and you just take it?
We're hoping to see the estimates at the next meeting.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Might be
Are you-
scary when they
Mayor.
start to penetrate the underlayments and the like.
Can,
Yes, sir.
So a lot of the other boards have downsized to meet the quorum requirements. Is there an issue that we need to resolve, or is there anything we can do to help, or was it aberration?
I think it was 4 excused absences at
Got
that
it.
meeting,
All right.
and, you know, excused absences are great, but we need a quorum. We only meet 4 times a year, and
We're trying
Mr.
to get
Johansson
more.
knows my feelings about meeting 4 times a year. I'd like to get it up to 6 times a year
Mm-hmm.
if possible, which we plan on proposing at our next meeting. But I need a quorum.
You
at
need a
these
quorum
meetings.
for 4, much less 6.
Just let us know, you have some, I think you have some appointments coming up.
We do. We have
That would be the
appointments.
time to let them die by
We have
attrition.
appointments coming up in April for your proposal there.
Right.
We appreciate people's willingness to serve, you know.
Yes.
We also got to get them to honor their commitments.
Absolutely.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Any other questions of council?
Great job,
There being,
Paul.
okay, now I can say thank you, John.
We'll make sure he has a spot on in the city's Family Days kiosk with the community development as well.
Perfect. Item 15, Golf Advisory Board report.
Good evening, one and all.
How are you?
I'm doing well, and you?
Good. Yes, sir.
Rich Lee, I'm the current chairman of the Golf Advisory Board. Was last year, again this year, so I know I share your pain. We met on February the 5th, and at that meeting, we spent a great deal of time reviewing Resolution 1932, which is really the golf rules for the golf course, of the etiquette, those kinds of things, how to treat the employees, what the expectations of players are, and those things. It is, in essence, it was a fairly thick resolution that we went through, and it basically is being completely rewritten. It was 20-plus years old. Some of the things that were in there were almost comical. And Susan Lavello has taken charge to get that rewritten and have it ready for our next meeting, which will probably be in another month. We had spoken last time about course conditions, and I'd indicated that there had been some concern, particularly on holes 2 and 18, because of the shade that goes onto the green, that they have not had a chance to grow and mature as they should have. Trees have been cut in those areas. We're expecting some improvement, but there's been continued deterioration at this point. One of the things I've learned from some little bit of research that I've done is the type of grass that we chose to put in those areas was relatively low expensively, price-wise, but it's difficult to maintain. It's very particular, it's kind of fussy. It likes a certain amount of water, a certain amount of heat, a certain amount of cold, a certain amount of light. So if you don't get those conditions exactly right, it struggles. It also will never grow very tall. So unlike some greens, like if you played some of the courses in New Smyrna Beach, you'll find that their greens are just perfect. I mean, they look like a green carpet that you're going through. It's a whole different type of grass. We're never going to get that condition. We're always going to have a very thin grass layer and very fast greens as a result of that. But there is some concern by the board that we're not getting the kind of help and support in order to make those greens grow, given the rain and the cold and then getting hot and it gets cold again, that they need in order to support them. So again, Susan Lavello has said they're going to have some agricultural people from the University of Florida, maybe even from the PGA or from Kemper, to come out and take a look and make sure that we're getting the right kind of treatment, because we'd hate to get those wasted. Spruce Creek, by the way, Country Club did the same exact grass when they did their course about 7 years ago now. And when they did the 2 9s, they did 1 9 and then did a second 9. The first 9 that they did, they lost because they didn't know what they were doing, didn't do it correctly, didn't maintain it correctly, and ended up having to redo it. I think they've learned now, because their course, their greens, frankly, are in a better condition right now. But they're 4 years older than ours. It does take a while for that to mature. The last thing, or not the next thing I wanted to talk to you about, there was a handout that you all should have gotten, a little 2-pager, which we're down at the bottom where there's a green C, where it talks about total rounds and paid rounds. This is a report that comes from Kemper each month back to the city. And the questions came up with, well, total rounds and paid rounds, you mean there's 570 rounds that were unpaid? I mean, that's kind of what it looks like when you look at those numbers. Well, as it turns out, if you go to the next page, that's really not the case. Out of those 570 rounds, the legacy and pass holders, which there are about 40 or so of those left, are included in the non-paid rounds, even though they make an annual payment to the course, but that's amortized, and therefore they don't include that for whatever reason as a part of that calculation. The one that we didn't know about, that I was totally unaware of, is Golf Now. The agreement with Golf Now, who is an online booking agent on the internet, and some of you may have used it, gets 4 free rounds a day in exchange for Cypress Head being able to use their online booking system. So it's a barter arrangement. I'll give you 4 free rounds, you know, and we get to use your booking system. What surprised me was Kemper doesn't have a national account with Golf Now. Every individual course negotiates their own deal with, yeah, that was my look too, with Golf Now. And they said because it's different depending on location. It's different in California than it is in Illinois, than it is in Florida. And so each course is responsible for doing that on their own. The suggestion to the general manager for Cypress Head was, let's make sure we're getting the value out of that agreement. If you're giving up 4 rounds a day, are you getting the activity? Are you getting the use out of them that you should have? So there's got to be a give and take there. Let's make sure that we're not on the short end of that and that we're getting value for what you're receiving. So he's going to look at that and see whether or not they can determine how much business are they really getting through Golf Now, and is it worth it to give up those 4 rounds every day? The other one is now, and that's about 160 rounds a month. And then the employees, the benefit of working there, they get some free golf, and it's about 100 rounds a month. So when you look at that, it's like, well, you're giving 570 rounds away. Now, you're really giving maybe 100 at most. And so it's really a misnomer. I asked them, why is it reported that way? And they said, well, that's the way the city wants it. That's why. I don't know who the city is exactly, whether you all made that decision or Parks and Recreation made the decision or whoever, but we asked them, can you not, or I'd like to ask them if you can't break it out so that we can understand exactly what you're doing and how much we're giving, you know, how much is legacy and pass holders, how much is really going to Golf Now, and how much is really the employees that are playing. So that's something that's going to come up.
Okay.
Yes.
No, that's a good point.
Yeah.
How
It
do
just
we
seems
know
like
we're
that,
getting-
yeah, you know, the devil's in the details, and sometimes you just get lost and look at the summarization like that.
Mayor, excuse me one second. Mayor, if council has consensus on that, I'd like to ask the city manager to ask Bob Duquette on his next briefing to us to cover that topic, and we can have that discussion with him as well.
Council, are we in agreement?
Sure. Okay with that?
We'll check the contract as well, make sure
Thank
that
you.
we're not, it's not a contractual issue, but,
Sure.
yep, we'll figure it out.
This is honestly the kind of stuff we have advisory boards for, to bring this
Yeah.
kind of stuff forward, so good catch.
Okay, good, thank you. They also completed the golf course financial audit was done, and they found no material issues, which is good to hear that all the accounting records seem to be in place. And again, weather has been a constant problem. We continue to have a lot of rain, a lot of cold. As you know, there's a lot of elderly who play at that course. They won't play if it's been raining or if it's cart path only, and that happens almost every time it rains. There's a cart path only problem. And temperatures have been up and down a lot, but it looks like it's getting a lot better now. So that's all I got. Anything?
Yeah.
Start with Jack.
No, I'm just gonna ask, on the, year-to-date, you were 25,000, actual below budget, or below budget 54, but 25,000 short, right? For 2018?
This is not Kemper Sports, this is the advisory committee.
That's advisory committee?
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
I
a
was
good
just looking
question
at the
for-
budget.
Yeah, for Bob
Yeah.
Duquette when he does his presentation.
Okay.
This should come into the city. I assume everybody gets a chance to see this if they care to. So,
Yeah.
Usually in our agenda packet, the day that Bob
Yeah,
reports
yeah.
to us.
But it's, you know, it's like a 50-page packet. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, thank you. Anything else, Jay? Mr. Wiles?
No, that's all.
Okay.
That's all. Thank you.
I was glad to hear
I
you
was finished.
mention the course condition. It's bad. It's as bad as I've ever seen in
Yes.
20 years golfing.
Yep.
It's you know, I had multiple phone calls from random people and friends I've been golfing with for years. And I went down and rode through there I've never seen it like that since I've been golfing there since the 90s. That reminded me of Indigo Lakes when I stopped golfing there, and Pelican Bay when I stopped golfing there.
Right.
It's not too late to get a hang on it, but if we don't, man, shame on us. So I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear you guys recognize that, because the tee boxes were bad, the greens, bad as I've ever seen it.
Those are the two areas that are really in the worst condition, the tee boxes and the greens. And we spent a lot, you spent a lot of money fixing those greens up 3 years ago, and we don't want to see that, go down the poop chute, so to speak. I think there's certainly some that are okay. One is an
There's a few of
example.
them that look
is
pretty
in
good. I
reasonably
see they're
shape.
redoing.
But there's about a half a
17,
dozen that
16.
are in serious trouble, and we do need to make some corrective action to make sure that they get taken care of. And tee boxes, frankly, there's no excuse for those being in the condition they're in. Fairways rough is pretty normal for that course. But the
Fairway
tee-
wasn't as bad as I expected it to be. After seeing a few of the greens, I was a little bit more.
The greens is,
a
yeah,
little
I know.
okay, but man, those greens and the boxes.
And and you're trying to drive people to play the course, and they start playing someplace else, and they go, wait a minute, I had a better time at at the course. than I
That's
had
what I'm
here."
afraid of. People
Yeah,
aren't
exactly.
gonna come back.
Yeah, because there's too many courses in the area. But anything else? Sorry.
That's
Don't
all
wanna
I
tie
got.
up.
Drew?
Oh, I'm good.
Scott?
Thanks, Rich.
Scott.
Thanks, Rich.
Okay.
Thanks. I might have had an errant shot on Saturday that hit your house, or the mayor might have won.
No, mine was going straight. I don't know what was wrong with yours.
I will share with you though
Yeah.
that a lot of positive feedback on the course from the group Saturday in the tournament.
Oh, good.
And I
That's good to hear.
think
Yeah.
the weeds thing is not necessarily unique to us. I think a lot of the area courses are really struggling because a lot of the time that they would have had this winter to really get on top of the weeds, we got inundated with a lot more rain than normal, and that kind of hampers the weed effort from what I understand, but I know that they're aware of it. But a lot of positive feedback. The new carts look great.
Yeah, like digging new
yeah.
carts, they look fine. Yeah.
Staff did a nice job running an event Saturday that put us in a pretty positive light with a lot of folks, and it was a great turnout. And
Yeah.
weather was really good, and so
Yeah.
We'll certainly be asking Mr. Duquette about course when we
Yeah.
see him, but I tell you what.
few things here and there, but the fairways, I agree that the fairways actually were in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
Some of the greens
We didn't
were
spend much time on them, but yeah.
better than the sides of the fairways are
The rought's good, too.
not necessarily in the middle.
We did our
Right,
part
yeah.
to preserve them.
Yeah.
You had to walk and
If you can
and
stay
cart
on the
around
Palmettos, you're
Chase's
doing a lot better.
divots.
It's a much shorter course in the middle.
Anyway, thanks for the report, Rich.
Okay.
Can we do
Thanks,
something
guys.
about the snakes in the swamp?
Yeah.
Scott was hitting them straight
And the
to the
gators.
right, straight to the left,
Thanks, Rich.
Next item is Golf Advisory Board appointments. Some gentleman named Richard Lee wants to be reappointed. Jane Taylor wants to be reappointed. We happen to have 2 openings and no other applicants. So, council, what would you like to do?
Move to reappoint.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to reappoint Rich Lee and Jane Taylor. Any comments, council?
You're doing a fabulous job.
Don't want to stand up and talk us out of it?
We're good.
Call the roll.
Councilman Wiles?
Yes.
Councilman Bastian?
Yes.
Councilman Stiltner?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Tremont?
Yes.
Mayor Burnett?
Yes, 5-0. Appreciate your service.
No song.
Brings us to the public hearing portion of the meeting, second reading of ordinance number 2019-9, which is amending the section 2-186 through 2-189 relating to administrative officials. The ordinance number 2019-9 is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, amending and restating the Code of Ordinances, section 2-186 through 2-189, inclusive, relating to administrative official regulations, requirements, employment termination, rights, benefits, compensation, and evaluations, providing for codification, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Move to approve ordinance number 2019-9.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Council, comments?
No comment.
Second reading, no comments. Anyone from the public wish to speak to this one? There being none, back to us. Last bite at the apple, gentlemen. Being none, call the roll.
Councilman Wiles?
Yes.
Councilman Bastian?
Yes.
Councilman Stiltner?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Tremont?
Yes.
Mayor Burnett?
Yes, 5-0. Item 18 is second reading of ordinance number 2019-10, amending the city's regulation of dangerous dogs. Ordinance number 2019-10 is an ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, amending Chapter 10, Section 10-3 Code of Ordinances to revise the definition of dangerous dog, amending Section 10-9 Code of Ordinances regarding the confinement requirements for a dangerous dog, amending providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
Move to approve ordinance number 2019-10.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Council comments?
No comments.
None?
Second reading.
Anyone here care to speak to this? There being none, last bite of the apple?
Good.
Call the roll.
Councilman Miles.
Yes.
Councilman Bastian.
Yes.
Councilman Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Tremont.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0. Second reading of ordinance number 2019-13, which is amending Chapter 2, Article 6, Section 2-273 of the Code of Ordinances and Finance. Ordinance number 2019-13 is an ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, amending Chapter 2, Article 4, Division 2, Section 2-273 relating to finance, purchase, and sale procedures, providing for codification, providing repeal of the conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Move to approve ordinance number 2019-13.
I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Council, comments?
And there's
Anyone here
another
care to
one,
speak to
second
this? There being none? Any other closing comments? There being none up here, call the roll.
Councilman Miles.
Yes.
Councilman Bastian.
Yes.
Councilman Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Tremont.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0. Brings us to the regular agenda items. Resolution 19-8 is the transfer of 0.84 state wetland mitigation bank credits for the City of Port Orange Police Department Range and Training Facility. Resolution number 19-8 is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Port Orange, Florida, Volusia County, Florida, approving transfer of 0.84 state wetland mitigation credits from the Port Orange Wetland Mitigation Bank, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute all required documents on behalf of the City of Port Orange, and providing for an effective date.
Motion to approve resolution 19-8.
I'll second that.
You have a motion and a second. Who's presenting the resolution?
Mayor, I can address that tonight.
Okay.
This resolution provides for the transfer of just less than 1 credit, so 0.84 mitigation credits for the St. Johns River Water Management District. You do have a wetland mitigation bank approved with St. John's. There is no additional cost to the city in order to transfer these credits. Upon approval of the resolution, the credits will be allocated to this project so it can move forward with its proper permitting.
Council comments, questions? All I know is that dating back to the end of 2010, when I first came on council, we were talking about this training facility.
Range and training, yeah.
And we were talking about it when you guys came on council.
Yep.
And we've been talking about when you guys came on council. And we're this close to actually having it go out to bid, so that it's taken a long time. Yes, this one is moving at the speed of government, it seems like, but we are this close. I can't
Very
wait to
good.
see it in reality. Anyone here to care to speak on this resolution? Come on up.
Savannah Weaver, Port Orange. Mayor, Council. I am in 100% support of the police getting a training facility and range. Safety of our community is very important, and I understand the need for continuing education. But let's not ignore the importance to conserve our land, especially to prevent contamination to our water supply and filling in wetlands. Wetlands are among the most productive ecosystem in the world, next to rainforests and coral reefs. Humans depend on a complex set of relationships between wetland and watershed. They naturally provide flood protection and improve our water quality. Bullets contain a variety of material including lead, copper, zinc, and many more. These materials sink into soil and contaminate animals, water, and soil in the environment around the range. Lead poisoning causes a variety of developmental delays and neurological issues and will cost millions to clean up. I'm not asking you not to build the facility and range, just to be smart when developing and to reconsider placing a range on wetlands. If you will not consider placing the range on wetlands, what will we be doing to clean up these contaminants and ensure our water stays clean? Conserving our land has been one of the top concerns I have been hearing from voters I have been surveying along my campaign trail. If we're going to continue taking our land for development, we also need to be giving back. What we take from our beautiful, vulnerable land, we need to invest back into our land. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other? Anyone else? Back to council. Scott, Drew,
Give her a tour of the reclaim.
Jack, Chase?
Good.
No other comments?
Mayor, real quick, I think it would behoove the city to have the candidate tour the reclaimed lakes to see what we've done to pay forward our wetlands, and we'll make that arrangement with our public utilities director, public works director, to make sure she gets out there and sees what we've done to pay forward what we're about to
You're
do.
going to do that and extend that invitation?
I'll
Make sure you do it
extend
to
all of
the
them,
candidates.
absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah, because you'll enjoy that. Absolutely. Call the roll?
Councilman Miles,
Yes.
Councilman Bastian,
Yes.
Councilman Stiltner,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Tremont,
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0. Resolution 19-9 is Parks and Recreation Partner Fees. I had it here, there we go. Resolution 19-9 is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, establishing revised, providing for repeal. Establishing revised? Missing a word there, it looks like. Providing for repeal of conflicting resolutions and providing an effective date.
Move to approve resolution number 19-9.
Oh, second.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Sorry, buddy. Appreciate it.
It's okay.
Susan Lavala citing.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Susan Lavala, Parks and Recreation Director. What's before you tonight is our fee resolution. It appears before you once or twice a year. The item this was brought to you back in January. However, we had some workshops with our partners as well as our Parks and Rec Advisory Board, and I want to thank both groups for the time that they have given over the past 4 months discussing these items and what's before you tonight. So basically what the advisory board had brought up was looking at increasing their fee for the annual fee that they pay the city for the usage of their fields. In order to try and work our way to get in line with the 30% cost recovery that the council has asked the Parks and Rec Department to recover. With the talks and how we've moved through things, we came up with some different models. And the board has recommended that we raise their fee from $4,000 a year to $68.66. In that, there was also some talk about reducing the field usage or cost, 25%. And we've run through some of those models. Staff agrees with the board's recommendation to raise that annual partner fee to $68.66 and provide the frequent user fee for groups that are not a partner but tend to use our fields frequently at a discounted rate of $11.22 per hour. That does not include the lights, they would be, or field setups, so they would have to pay those fees. Yes, sir.
Is that, sorry for the interruption, just want to get it, is that 68.66 per team or or per organization?
Correct,
Or
per partner.
Per partner.
I will point out that that 2 of our groups did not meet our residency requirement, nor did they meet the requirement for having Port Orange in their name, which is required by our code. And those groups right now are paying as they go at our current rate of $20 an hour is what we charge for the fields. So, so I wanted to point that out, and I've attached, I'm sure you are well versed in this, I've attached all the information in the minutes to the meeting. The groups are here tonight. I'm sure that some of them would like to speak on this, and Councilman Wiles was the chairman of the Parks and Rec Board when this was discussed, so he'll have some insight also. Yes, sir. But we are here for any questions. Again, I do want to thank the groups. It was some long meetings, and they really put forth a lot of good effort and good input and really helped guide us as a department. So I definitely want to thank our advisory board and the members of our partnerships to get us to where we are today. Thank you.
We started this, and Jack, questions for Susan or comments?
Just a comment, real quick, then we'll get into probably public participation. But one of the things that Susan pointed out is in order to get to the number we derived at, which is what's being proposed tonight, the 25% reduction has to happen. Otherwise, that number would be much higher. Instead of what will be $8.41 per hour, it would be $11.22. So we've made a lot of concessions. I think the Parks and Rec Advisory Board came up with a lot of concessions to try and accommodate these groups without putting too much of a burden on them, but getting it somewhat in line. So we can talk about that in more detail, but no real questions for Susan.
Chase?
No, that was my only question. I think, yeah, I'm sure we'll come back later on.
Yeah. Oh, we'll come back. Drew?
Looking at a reduction of 25%, like practice time, or is this overall? It's not going to affect games and things. Is it just the practice on the fields due to scheduling, or?
So that's the topic. So the advisory board was interested in looking at a 25% reduction in field or cost.
Okay.
So in order to try and bridge the gap after our meeting in October, we pitched the idea that maybe we can reduce our cost by 25% and raise our fees a little bit in order to get to the number that the board wanted to look at. That doesn't necessarily mean reduction in field space. Okay, so there's some items that our partners do for us that could be a cost avoidance for us having to hire additional people to help us with some of the field space. So we're re-looking at some of that.
Okay.
You know, I think my staff does a really good job managing the fields and making sure that we stay within the keeping the integrity of those fields and making sure our programs are scheduled in the time they need, and then working with our partners.
Okay. Scott?
There's a lot of work that goes into something like this, and I appreciate the effort and the time that staff, as well as members of the community and our advisory boards, put into looking at this. This is probably one of those fluid topics that's always going to be there and always be something to keep an eye on as things change. Certainly the cost of maintaining our facilities and doing things like that is continuing to increase, as well as demand and use and stuff like that. One particular thing, and I think I've commented on this in the past, that I just am not happy or on board with, is the 50% residency. I just think that number is way too low. The taxpayers of Port Orange significantly, overwhelmingly offset the cost, yet we're having a residency rate that's, in my opinion, just far too low. I mean, I think it should be 80%, to be honest with you. I don't mind having a certain margin. I get that. Other communities have that as well. So, you know, residents from one community can go to another, but there's very few communities, especially here in Volusia County, that can provide the amount of programs and facilities and space and things like that maybe Port Orange and Ormond and Deltona and a few others can. So it's just such a low number, knowing that the taxpayers of Port Orange overwhelmingly fund these programs and these facilities and stuff to such a large percentage. So that's just always been something that I've wrestled with, and I just think that that's a number that needs to be moving in the other direction, especially if we're going to continue to offset such a large cost of these programs and facilities and things like that. So I don't know if
the interesting thing about that is well, of course, those facilities will be there for our own rec programs, not just our partner programs. So 30% cost recapture is actually, it's not offsetting as much as one would actually think, because we have to maintain those fields anyway for our own programs. But we talked about this when we met with the Parks and Rec Board. We had 6 partner groups. 2 of them already fell out because they couldn't meet that requirement. But they're not all the same. an organization like Pop Warner, you got 120 kids, and if you're asking them to make an 80% requirement, they might be able to do that, even though it is a regional program. But what about the baseball team that has 10 kids, and you've got 7 of them are the residents instead of 8, and 1 kid makes you fall out? So it's very hard when we're trying to put blanket percentages and blanket procedures and apply them uniformly when all these sports are so different. And I agree with you. I think it should be predominantly Port Orange residents, and if we already had some fallout because of that, then so be it, if they're going to co-sponsor with us. But that's a very difficult thing when we start playing with that number.
And if we were a community significantly less sized than what we are, and there wasn't a large base of you know, youth to get involved in these different programs, I would understand that. But in a school, in a community that's got 10 public schools, 5 of which are elementary schools, we've got plenty of kids and youth to be involved in our athletics in our city. So.
And they are.
They are very much.
And
so,
they are.
Yeah.
Just a couple of comments, and to your point, partners currently are utilizing about 37% of the field space, time on the fields. Cost recovery under our current program is 5.7%. As Susan pointed out, rec is 30% cost recovery. Our rec program, of course, collecting 30%. Our average partner ratio in residency currently is 66%. So some of the clubs have a much higher participation percentage of residencies than others. Some of them aren't going to make the cut, but to your point, the taxpayers are going to subsidize those non-residents to a larger degree. Under this particular plan, reducing their usage by 25% and trying to get to a 30% cost recovery would generate, instead of $109,000, which at 30% would be $109,000 to the city from our partners, it would reduce it to $82,000. So at 15%, which is what's being proposed by Susan's in the advisory board, would get a start in the right direction, but would only generate $38,000. So we're going from what was 109,000 down to 82 to only collecting $38,000. You know, clubs that qualify need to meet the standard guidelines by name on the jersey, providing insurance, financials, you know, on a regular basis. And I would say, you know, they need to do that as far as the name and so forth, and then the business name, and also on their patch on their jersey. But also what they decided was that it would be financials regularly and rosters as well. The rec program is growing at such a large rate right now. I think you have another program coming online where more fields are going to be need to be utilized, and with the stress of the partners, it's taking up field space, so rec kids aren't going to be able to participate to the degree that they were. The only other couple points I'd like to make is that there is an opportunity for those clubs to generate more income, and I think we welcome that, because if you look at our revenue over the past years, our revenue has gone up from field rentals and gym rentals to, in 2014, of $85,000. It's down to $48,000 right now. And the reason it's down is because we haven't had the fields to rent. We've been, you know, doing the partnership thing. Another reason it's down is because we have not done quite as many tournaments as we've done in the past. But that's a great opportunity for our partners to get on board with doing tournaments and generating income, because a lot of them charge a, you know, parking fee, a fee for you know, the clubs that come in and play. So there's a great opportunity there to generate the money. But if you break it down by player on most teams, we're really talking about $8.41, where the rec kids are paying $16 to play. So it's 50% of what a rec player would be. I think this is a very good start in the right direction, but I think we're going to have to address this again because of the cost factors that it costs to run this facility. I think you'll see it moving to probably propose at 15% this year 20% next, 25% the following year, and then the 30% at least, with maybe a higher participation rate. So I think that's something we need to, you know, the council needs to start thinking about. But I think this is very generous and very, you know, trying to not push anybody out the door, but be very fair and equitable for all. And
that's the tough part, because we have to be fair to the taxpayer, but we can't break these teams in the process of getting there. So
we're not, yeah.
And that we have to be very mindful of that. That's part of the reason why I said all these teams are different. They have different needs. They react differently. The size of the programs are very different. But yet somehow we have to come up with a uniform standard that works, and that is a very, very tough job.
Well, in particular, if we don't offer one, like Pop Warner, I can't take that in the same league as everybody, as some of the others, which we do offer baseball, we do offer softball, we do offer a number of other sports. So it'd be tough to apply uniformly. However, I am in agreements. You know, I'm looking at two hats here. I have a daughter that plays with the Panther organization. It's a stellar program. I see Coach over there. They do a wonderful job. As a parent, I know where I lie. As a councilman, I got to look at the fact that our Parks and Rec are paying more than our private organizations are. If that is indeed what the numbers are saying. Now, when they bring in contributions, if the numbers add up where it's balancing out, then all right, we'll take that into consideration. But I feel comfortable moving in the direction that we're going to move right now. I'll have more to say later.
One quick comment. These partners do a lot for the city in terms of the kids playing. We value everything they do, and I think we were trying to demonstrate that through this proposal. But at the same time, if they bring money in to a field and make an improvement, that improvement is not just taken lightly. We reimburse them through non-payment on an annual basis.
Yeah, we have to value it, absolutely.
You put a value on it, so they're totally reimbursed for that, the value they give us, so, or give to the city. So
let's
we
hear
appreciate
from,
that.
before we hear from the public, are there any questions for Susan?
One more.
No, questions, not comments, questions for Susan.
Yeah. I wanted to ask about the time availability on the fields. Have you seen an uptick in it? Is it loosened up? I get calls from both sides. I can't get one, then I see, hey, I'm driving by and the field's wide open. So I'm curious as to what that's looking like.
So right now is the worst time of year. Okay, we're in our baseball softball season. We have all of our partners who are trying to have space for their practices and games. We also, I wish you could spend some time with Josh and Hannah. The chart that they do.
Can't move that fast.
The chart that they do to try and schedule everybody. The nuances are, some of the groups don't have their schedules for their games until late. We try to do our scheduling a month out. Some groups, we get rain, right? So some of the groups were actually starting to schedule in rain dates so that they can be able to have those set days for if they do get rained out during the week, maybe they have a Saturday or Sunday. Okay. So we're working with our groups to try and figure that out, but we've also had Southwinds Soccer Complex was down for an entire year, you know, just due to the turf. We rotate people, so sometimes when you see a field empty, it's because maybe we had soccer up there for the last 6 weeks and the field is just destroyed. The parks crew has to come in. They have to top dress, aerate, and as you know, Bermuda grass does not grow until the temperatures get above 60 degrees all the time. So Bermuda grass is not growing. So we can go out there and do whatever we need to do to those fields. We can't make grass grow in temperatures that it doesn't grow in. So we try to rotate fields. We try to keep the integrity of those fields so that we're not coming to you every year and saying, we need to resod these fields at $100,000 a field. You know, I've been here for 16 years. The fields at City Center, the original turf is on that field. Bermuda grass breaks down after about 10 years, you should be resodding. So the more that the turf breaks down, the more maintenance it's going to take to keep it up, and the more wear and tear it's going to affect it. So but we get it, right? It's a balance. We go through the budget every year. We understand, and our guys work really hard so that we don't have to have that big ask. But we are getting to that point where our field usage is so saturated. Certain times of the year, there's other times of the year that it's not, and that we're going to run into these problems as our programs grow, as these new housing developments and apartments come on. They're going to come with kids. Those kids are going to want to play in these programs, you know, which could be a good problem, could be a bad problem, I'm not sure yet, but those are things we're trying to plan for. We're trying not to be reactive, we're trying to be proactive. And that's why sometimes you might see a field empty or something like that.
A while ago, I made a suggestion and asked if we could get a quote for claying the field with some real quality stuff. You know, that thing's out. That thing rains for 10 minutes. We're done for the next 5 days. I would, in your opinion, would that make a huge difference in? We got the clay at Spruce Creek. It rains at 9 to 12 a.m. or 9 to 12 p.m. We're ready to play at 4 o'clock.
So there's a lot of things, right? Clay mixtures come in all different mixtures.
Let the field manager bring it.
Your junior colleges usually play like at an 80-20, where you have 80% clay, 20% sand. Those fields are tarped, they're covered. The more clay you have, the less the water will go through it. When we built the fields at Karasi, the fill that was used underneath those fields came from the well fields, the ponds. You know, so there were some cost savings in the budget at that time, which, you know, the fields at City Center were built on top of a dump, okay? So when you build a field, there's a lot that has to happen. And we build our fields for recreational use. That has been, at least what I've been understood, is how we maintain. We maintain to the recreational user. We don't maintain to the high school. We don't maintain to the college. We don't maintain to the minor leagues. We maintain to, unless that changes, that's at least been our marching orders. As you get more clay and less sand, it requires a lot more maintenance. When I get too much sand, the problem I'm hearing now is that some of our fields are too sandy. Sand helps percolate the water, which helps us get fields going faster. Some crews are real big on using the diamond dry, you know, that kitty litter type stuff you throw on the fields. Our maintenance department is comfortable with a certain bag. I think it's 3 bags on the field. And the reason is we can't get it off. So guess what? When we stop having rain, it dries the fields out and they become as hard as concrete. Again, we maintain to the recreational user, which is the kid who maybe has never played ball before. We don't want the ball ricocheting off the hard infield and hitting someone in the head.
I'm always nervous when someone slides into home.
Yeah. So one of the things we did go to is
Let's
home
also
plates.
keep in mind, and we need to wrap this part
Yeah.
up because this is not germane to the topic
Correct.
that we're discussing.
But we did do clay bricks at all of our home plates, which were now, Karasi I think is at the 10-year mark, and they're now being reordered and re-put in. So it's a balance. It's definitely a balance based on our budgets and based on what we're maintaining too. And everybody's different.
Any other questions for Susan before we go to the public? And we'll come back to us. You're off the hook for now.
Thanks, Susan.
Who would like to speak to this? Anyone? Anyone at all? I don't. Come on up. Do me a favor. You all get 3 minutes each. Come on up. What I would ask is, since there are multiple people wanting to speak, just be in the ready position so that when one person's done, we can move on to the next. And do me a favor, when you come up, introduce yourself and tell us who you're with.
Sorry if I seem aggressive. I drove 12 hours to get here from my specialist appointment. So, I'm sorry. My name is Rachel Trepsel. I am a Port Orange resident. I don't know if you know my address, but I am a Port Orange resident for a very long time. I volunteer, I work full-time and have a contract job with the state, so I don't have much free time, but in my free time I volunteer with Port Orange Volleyball as their community liaison. So I pretty much go out and try to develop great relationships. I also try to find different community events for our players to take part in. Our mission statement, we are a nonprofit, our mission statement is to help our players grow through the sport of volleyball. If they get to college and get a scholarship, that's great, but it's really to grow and develop them as individuals. so we differ from other clubs.
Rachel, do me a favor, pull that microphone
Oh, sure.
towards you. I
I'm
want
sorry.
everybody out there to hear
Okay.
you too.
So we
Thanks.
do have a mission statement, and it's to grow through the sport of volleyball. And I'm sorry, Mr. Stiltner, but I beg to differ. It is very hard to keep that 50%. We are competing with for-profit volleyball clubs, and we cannot afford, and nor will we, as a board member, waste our money flooding the schools with flyers. So we work very hard. I work very hard in my spare time trying to develop different relationships to get children out. The other thing, you guys do such a great job with your recreational program in the summer that we get whole teams of New Smyrna players coming over. And that is not our fault. You guys just do such a great job that kids from other areas are coming to do your programs, and then they want to continue to play competitive volleyball, and they play with us, which is great. Also, a lot of these families spend probably 3 to 5 days a week in the city of Port Orange, and that's no lie. And they come, we have some from DeLand, New Smyrna, Edgewater, and they spend probably hundreds to thousands of dollars a week if you think about groceries or oil changes or tires. And again, that's no lie. We have some parents here that can attest to that. We also meet the 50% guidelines, which we're very proud of. We work hard. This past year, we tend not to brag about ourselves, but this past year we participated in the Port Orange Parade. We were also at the Family Days. We also fundraised, I'll have to look at my list because we did a lot. We just recently donated clothes for women and children to the Children's Home Society. At Christmas time, we donated clothing to Healthy Start in Daytona, and they distribute to families, mostly homeless women and children around the county. We also donated at Christmas time food to families of Port Orange Elementary because there were no other companies that were stepping up. Once we did, there were other companies, but we did pull together, and we've done other events as well. We also are limited to 6 to 7 months due to other programs that we always step aside for, and we are so thankful to the city and the recs. Everybody at the rec is so wonderful to our parents. We love them, and we actually almost feel like we're definitely part of the city of Port Orange. We have our 15U team is actually ranked number 26 in the state. And if any of you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to meet you for coffee if you have questions about how we can all grow together. But please take into consideration that.
Thank you. Thanks, Rachel.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Good evening, guys. Mayor, Council, my name is Mike Bellis. I'm a director of the Port Orange Baseball Club. However, I'm the director of the girls division. I direct all of the teams, and I coach 3 of the teams. If you recall, I was the coach of our state championship team that represented Port Orange in the state and also into the World Series. This year we took 2 teams down to Puerto Rico for a trip down there representing Port Orange. I just want to say first and foremost that our city relationship with our Parks and Recreation is at an all-time high. It's phenomenal. They work hard. They work to get us what we desire. We bend, they bend. We get asked to participate, we participate. We get asked to move our times, we move our times. We ask for some things from them, and more times than not, we get everything we ask for. They are phenomenal. Okay, so getting into the participation, our goal was 100% Port Orange participation, and one of the things on the girls' side, we have a very high rate of participation, but what we're finding out is when the families at no choice of their children are moving away, they do not want to leave. So the kids still travel back here. A lot of West Volusia, and it's not outsiders coming in. These are old, ex-Port Orange residents that do not want to give up the connection with their friends, their teams, their coaches, and their community. So, real quick, I'm an accountant. I live in the numbers, okay? I understand the numbers. I understand the budgets. I understand. There's one line item that I believe that I have not heard tonight. I've not heard in any of our meetings and our conversations, and that's the investment in the kids. We cannot put a number on what these kids are getting. They're off the streets. They're investing in our other teams. We have girls coaching younger teams. These children are becoming something because of what we do, because of all of our volunteer time that we put in. There's no line item that's going to ever cover the payback that we're going to receive from these children being a part of this community. The sense of community that they have, that they bring, I'm very, very proud when an ex-player that goes to college calls me up and says, Coach, can I take a team? And it's phenomenal. There's not going to be a line item, no matter what chart we use and what chart we look at, that the investment in the child and what it will do payback in the community compared to any line, any percent, any red mark, whatever. We budget, we go over our budgets constantly, and all we want to do is make sure the kids have somewhere to play, and they love to play here. The families love it. We've come from nothing. The girls' side has come from one team with 8 girls, 6, 7 teams, 100 kids. And the travel feeds the rec feeds the travel. It is a true partnership. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, Council, thanks for having me. I'm Tim Moore. I've grown up in Port Orange and have enjoyed playing sports throughout my childhood. And to second what he just said, I really can't second that enough. Growing up, having youth sports, keeping you playing team sports rather than doing anything else. I mean, it was my favorite thing, absolute favorite thing growing up. And I think that's what you need to ask yourself. Are you for or against youth sports? Because if you're going to increase the fees by 50% or more, you're saying you're against it. And what I'm hearing is just missed opportunities at getting that financial to connect. You know, you don't just go to the partners and say, hey, you know, we need 50% more. You know, the way I see it, the deal was there's a lot of gym time not being used. You know, here's a partner that says we'll pay you X amount of dollars for this much gym time. You make the deal, and now you want to say, you know, we need more money. We need 50% more money. And you know, that's not how I do. I can't do business like that. You know, my customers wouldn't put up with that. But to support youth athletics is the most important thing in this area, because there is not a lot of good opportunities, a lot of good options in this area, especially, no offense, but what you guys offer through the Port Orange Recreation is the low level, the very lowest level of experience for these kids. And when you start stepping it up a notch and up a notch, you know, I have a 13-year-old daughter who loves volleyball, and she wants to play volleyball at Silver Sands. They have a varsity team. She's not good enough to make the team. The one season that you guys do for Port Orange Volleyball, the Port Orange Recreation, which is 2 months long, does not cut it. I asked the athletics supervisor over there. He said there are no immediate plans to add any more seasons for volleyball, but a 2-month season is not enough. My daughter wants to play high school volleyball, and a club like this gives her the opportunity to get college scholarships. And the investment in the kids is the absolute main thing. So to support any kind of increase in this is a terrible decision, because throw some more tournaments on the weekend if you want to make a few extra $1,000. I had to just drive to Orlando. I paid $10 admission for me and my family, each person. You know, the money's there. You just have to, there's better ways to get it than, because it's already almost out of reach. By the time you have paid coaches, paid time, it's very expensive if you want to help your kids get to the next level. And Port Orange does not offer enough opportunities, and POV is filling that gap. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. No stranger?
I'm Mike Navarro, president of Port Orange Baseball Club. I'm well versed on this topic. I'm on the Parks and Rec board. Me and Jack fought for hours on this. I'm just here to say, I know the rate increase. I know, you know, it has to go through. My only fear is new clubs starting, like the tennis programs, clubs that don't have the membership we do. The bigger clubs are able to absorb these membership issues, and me and Jack have discussed this. These membership issues, you know, when you have 200 participants, it's easy. A rate change is not going to kill an organization. But when an organization, and I know when we started out, we had 6 players. You know, we showed up the first day, Port Orange, you know, we were down to 6 people. I don't know, when volleyball started out with 8 people. You got the tennis program with 12. That's my only caution, is we need to look into somehow coming up with a cost way for smaller clubs. They don't use as much fields, or they don't use, but you know what I'm saying, where we can still make it. Because like they're saying, the recreation to a point gets these kids so far. When the kids want that extra, you know, part of the city should be for us to give them that extra and give them the opportunity to get that extra. So that's my caution on it, is I don't want to price everyone out where little organizations cannot start, you know, like we started. I don't want to see someone not be able to come behind me doing the same thing we did. Start with a small organization and build it up. So, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike.
Hello, I'm Chelsea Nichols. I'm a resident of Port Orange and have been for 14 years. My daughter currently plays for Port Orange Volleyball. Prior to that, she was at the Port Orange YMCA and then went over to the rec and worked with Josh and Hannah throughout their program for a couple of seasons. It got to the point where I noticed she was not doing as well in growing as a volleyball player. At that point, I knew she needed to go to a competitive club. Unfortunately, I'm a single parent, and sometimes that was just out of reach for me. So when Port Orange came around and they offered, you know, partnerships, community partnerships, where my daughter and I go out every season, we hit businesses and let them know that we are a nonprofit organization. 80% of this, you know, partnership that we get goes directly to my daughter's volleyball account, which in turn helps me pay for it. You know, and Port Orange Volleyball is cheaper than a lot of the volleyball clubs here in Volusia County and even Seminole County. And they are constantly out there doing their job to promote not only their club, but the city itself. You know, I mean, Josh and Hannah know, those girls walk in there, these little girls look at them and they know who they are. They have no problem volunteering with their club or just saying, hey, do you need help? I'll come help you coach these kids, or, you know, help train or do classes with them. Port Orange Volleyball is very about, you know, all about the community. And in order to stay that way, they keep their fees low. So single parents, parents who, you know, have, you know, families that have two working parents can still afford to live and get their kids involved in sports and stay active in the community and essentially keep them out of trouble. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Chelsea.
Hello, good afternoon, and thank you for the time for giving us the opportunity to speak here today. My name is Samuel Green. I am a resident of the city of Edgewater, formerly a resident of the city of Port Orange, currently looking to be a resident again. Okay. Now, you might hear from my accent, it might come out when I get a little excited, that I'm not from originally from here, but I am a an American.
Sounds like a Port Orange accent to me.
It sounds like a Port Orange accent, okay.
That's right.
But, so I grew up in Kingston, Jamaica, and it's a different environment there. Competitive sports weren't necessarily on the dossier for all kids to participate in. A lot of the programs that evolved were based primarily out of schools. And what you'll find if you go down to Jamaica in the month of April, you'll see Usain Bolt running around on a blue track down there, right? But track and field, cricket, some other sports are there. I say that to say this. Organized sports here in this particular city have provided an opportunity that I didn't have for my kids. And all of us want for our children to do better and have more opportunities than we had for ourselves. Is that right? And so coming to this country, coming to this city, when I came here to fly airplanes at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, having received 3 degrees from that university now, I set my sights on doing things that can better the children around me. I've coached individuals for 10 years at the YMCA, and now when we're looking for an opportunity to step our game up, we look for an organization or several organizations. I have 3 children that are competitive, are in competitive sports. We looked around hard and fast, and we found that Port Orange Volleyball fit the bill. Not only just for competition, but for character. When you talk about growth through the sport of volleyball, it means more than just technique. It means more than just winning. It means more than just showing up and showing off. It means being a person that can commit to a community, to others, and help them grow. You've heard a little bit about what Port Orange Volleyball has done in the community. I have about 30 seconds left, but I have 3 children, I said. 2 girls play volleyball at Port Orange Volleyball, so you can imagine that the bill gets a little expensive. And if it weren't for the opportunity to offset those costs through the way that this club has structured it, it would be a little bit difficult and unbearable. My 3rd kid plays here in soccer in this city as well. So we spend a lot of time here in this city. Thank you. I know my time's up, but I appreciate the time, and thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Mike Semple. I'm a resident of Creekwater Boulevard here in Port Orange. I have 2 daughters that play volleyball for Port Orange Volleyball. I just happened to be flipping through my phone last night and going through some old photos with my oldest daughter and looking at how she played when she played YMCA ball right next door just 2 years ago. And the level of athletics that has increased of my daughters from their participation in this sport has been incredible. Just remember, as Port Orange residents, we just went through a tax increase, and I realized that there are always increases in expenses that we have to offset. But this is almost a 60% increase in what our user fees will be for using the gym here. And I think that's just really, really steep. I think we need to look at how much of a jump that is. Not that we shouldn't be paying a little bit more, but I think any place that we're increasing by 60% is a tremendous jump, and especially when we're increasing and then we're decreasing the amount of time that we're going to be able to use it. So I get less practice time for my kids to be there and make the most of that money. A lot of things that some of the people said here were very true that I didn't even think about. You know, a lot of our teammates come from Edgewater, New Smyrna. They'll come up for practice, drop the kids off, they'll eat at the local restaurants, we'll go do our grocery shopping in the area. It does benefit the city. And you know, my daughter today signed up for her classes at Spruce Creek, and what she's really looking forward to is going from playing Port Orange volleyball to playing at Port Orange's high school at Spruce Creek and really making a name for herself there. So that's all I'm asking, is really look at the size of this jump and take that into consideration. For us taxpayers, you know, we do make up more than 50% of the team, and it feels like it's a double hit when we're getting hit with an increased tax rate and an increase in user fees at the same time. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sean Holmes. I'm a Port Orange resident as well in the Waters Edge subdivision, actually my neighbor. I wanted to come up. I know a lot of the different sports have been represented. I'm the president for the board for the Port Orange Youth Football and Cheer Association. We probably have one of the larger number of kids that's volunteer in this community. Most of our kids are Port Orange kids unless they receive a waiver for some reason that's approved that allows them to play football or cheer for our teams. With that being said, my only concern with it, my son plays. He's been playing since he's been 5 years old. He's now turning 10, and he's been playing ever since. Is that we face different challenges. So with football, as you know, we have equipment usage. With some of the concerns with concussions and things like that, almost on a yearly basis, we have to make some changes to our helmets and our shoulder pads and things like that. So this year, for instance, we had to spend somewhere upwards close to almost $30,000 because we have to replace all of our helmets because they're now out of regulation. At a minimum, almost every 3 years, we have to replace equipment just because of the simple wear and tear. That goes from practice pants now to game pants that gets torn up as not suitable for the game. And of course, we want our kids to look presentable, but more so is the shoulder pads and the helmets. We do have numbers in the neighborhood of 120 to 130 kids, but we've also begun to see a decrease in that number as well. We have more competition. Daytona has about 3 teams now. One is a Pop Warner team. They also have 2 teams that are not under Pop Warner. As you know, with Pop Warner, we have a limit on the weight to control any kind of injuries. With these non-weighted teams, they don't have that. Sometimes their fees are a lot less than ours because some of the challenges and regulations we have to meet, they don't have to meet those. Pop Warner in general has seen anywhere from a 2 to 5% decrease over the last 5 years. And we also are experiencing that as well. So we're trying to do things a little differently to bring more kids out, especially from the cheer side. But the football is really important. I played football since I was a kid, all the way up to college. And the leadership skills and the relationships, more importantly, that I developed over those years is very important. So please take that into consideration as well when you're looking at these increases, that some of the costs we experience from a football side, just from the equipment, upkeep, and changes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Lauren Valley from Port Orange Volleyball. You heard my parents' perspective. I just wanted to give you some highlights and some other things that I didn't hear expressed from some of our supporters tonight. Our 17U, they have made the gold bracket in 2 out of 3 of their tournaments so far this season. The 15U is ranked, as we mentioned earlier, they're in the top 25 of the state of USA Volleyball. They've also been ranked top anywhere from 3rd to 5th place playing open, which is against the toughest competition, not only in the state but also in the country. Our 14U has been placing in the gold and the silver bracket. They actually just won the silver bracket at AAU Super Regionals. Our 12U, first year, all Port Orange residents. They ranked high, won the silver bracket in their last tournament, top 8 in gold in their first tournament. Our co-sponsors, us and our community sponsors, we worked tremendously together to offset the cost for our kids. Volleyball is incredibly expensive. I kind of feel like we're here tonight because we keep hearing fields, and then the gym got clumped into a lot of this. So I understand both sides. We do have to bring in more money to the city. At the same time, we've always been very much willing to work with the Parks and Rec to find ways to do that. We recently were just told now when we do host an event, we can charge admissions. As one of the dads said, we drove all the way out to Orlando and he's paying $10 a day. Since we weren't able to do that, there was some, I guess, research with the ECHO grant. Now we're able to do that. I would propose, can we host more than just 2 events in our contract? I have no problem, giving that money back into the city. That keeps us and my family and all of our players from having to go to Orlando and to Jacksonville, and we'll be actually going to Georgia here in April to go to Big South to a qualifier. Those events we can't shy away from because we do have some teams that do compete against some of the best teams in the nation, and that's where we find them. But some of our local and regional teams, that would be a huge savings to our family and also generate more revenue by bringing in the Jacksonville, Orlando teams to us and putting more money back into our community. We never have turned away a kid, any kid that can't afford a program per se. We do still try to find a way to get training for them. We look for sponsorships for them. We do whatever we can to help them. We have kids that are also playing beach volleyball. We had about 36 kids playing beach for us last year. We had some even in the top 10 ranked for USA Volleyball as young as 7 and 8 years old. Most of them are all Port Orange residents, just like we've met our residency requirement. We don't have any current beach courts. That's something that we're working very, hard towards. They say we need about 30 grand. So we've got to do a lot more fundraising, but those are other things that would add to the rec programs. We could bring beach volleyball, boys volleyball, things we want to expand upon. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right. Oh, we got another one. Come on. Sorry.
Can we get volleyball?
Yes, volleyball. My name's Erin Greco. I'm a mom. Yeah.
That was a joke.
With Port Orange Volleyball. I'm a nurse in Port Orange as well. Served in the Army, came back to Port Orange. We love it here, and I just want to point out that one of the reasons why we love it in Port Orange is the low crime rate. Our kids, as they get older, they'll want to stay in Port Orange, raise their families as well. So if you increase the cost of our kids playing for teams like Port Orange Volleyball, for the single parents, a lot of the parents that live in the community, they're not going to be able to. And I think by them playing for these teams, the crime rate will stay low. They will get off the streets, get active in sports, and it's just a real important, integral aspect. So just take that into consideration. Thank you.
Okay, I'm looking. Okay, come on. Come on, Paul.
Paul Rosar, 607 Powers Avenue, Port Orange, and as y'all know, I am running for District 1. What we're talking about here is Port Orange infrastructure that everyone brings up. And I'm going to keep this quick. We must keep the prices within reach for the parents to keep our youth on the fields and off the streets. Thank you.
I'm looking around, anybody else? Last call. Last call. Okay, back to us. Start this end this time, Scott.
You started at this end last time.
No, I started with Jack. I remember, I wrote it down.
Great comments. Great comments by everybody. Everybody brings great discussion to this topic. So to clarify my comment about the 50% residency thing, my feeling on that also has to do with the low cost recovery. So you've got a 50% residency requirement for a program or a partnership that yields back less than 10% recovery. One of the gentlemen mentioned being in business. You wouldn't do that in business. You wouldn't manufacture a product and sell it for 10% of what it costs you to manufacture the product. Other folks talked about the investment in the children in the community. I agree 100%. You know, so right now that the taxpayer is making that investment over 90%. So we're talking about a recreation recovery for our recreational programs that yield back a 30% cost recovery, where our private partnership programs are less than 10%. And so that's just out of balance. That just doesn't work. It's not right. You know what I'm saying? And so that's my issue of correlation with the 50% is if we had a higher cost recovery rate, then maybe the 50% is not so bad. But if we're at 50% and our cost recovery is less than 10%, we're trying to get to 15 or 20 and 30%. So that, just to clarify that, because I know a couple of you mentioned that, and so I just wanted to clarify the connection with that. We talked, a couple of you mentioned budgets. You're right, this is a lot about budgets. Somebody at the end of the day has to pay for the facilities, the maintenance, the staff, all those things. In the last budget year, we had a tax increase, and that tax increase included things for Parks and Rec to be able to maintain facilities, hire additional staff, all that kind of stuff. So that investment is being made. The council is making that investment. The taxpayers holistically are making that investment. We've been talking about for years the need to expand our Parks and Rec infrastructure. Somebody's got to pay for it, right? It's not just going to happen. So the income, the revenue is going to have to be acquired to be able to not only maintain programs and facilities and organizations and all the things we have now, but if you want to expand upon that and build that into the future, you have to have a budget. You have to have a plan of how you're going to do that. I don't know how you're going to have increased operational costs going up. Also, the need and desire to build new facilities, which are going to require more increased costs in operation and staff, and yet continue to have a partnership or partnerships that yield back such a low recovery rate with a very low residency rate as well. So the trick, I think, there is we're all just trying to find the balance, and everybody brings great points. There's no question. You know, if money wasn't an issue here, none of us would be sitting here tonight having this discussion, but it all is going to come down to somehow you have to fund this and you have to pay for these things. And so that's the balance. And I think that's what council is trying to do is find the balance so we can continue to move our programs and our facilities forward for everybody that's using Parks and Rec, and also so we can continue to look and how do we move forward in the future. Just in general, the investment, you spoke about the investment and how that correlates back to the benefit of the community and lower crime rates. I agree. I think having more things for our youth to do and our families to do and how they get involved in the community is it's part of the soup recipe, if you will, right? So it's great. Again, it just all boils back to how do you get there? You still got to get there. It's still going to come down to, you know, building new facilities, building new gyms, building bigger fields, more fields, all these different types of things. And so those costs are very real, and we have to figure out how to get there. And because I can tell you that tax increases every year is not sustainable. That's not going to be a way to do it. That's just not going to happen. You just can't continue to do that. We've fallen behind a little bit over the years. We've been trying to make some gradual catch up, and sometimes things don't always work out great as a percentage, And sometimes you're better off looking at them as a flat fee, you know, and different things like that. And you mentioned being in the numbers, and you're right. There's a lot of numbers involved when you're looking at these types of issues. So, but I truly appreciate everybody's comments and suggestions.
Drew?
I was just thinking, our relationship.
Drew?
Drew? Okay. I too appreciate the comments and everybody showing up and you know, supporting and speaking on this. But, you know, I tend to agree a bit with Councilman Stiltner. The current fee is $4,000 annually for the fee, and we're recouping roughly 5.5%. That's not sustainable. Trying to recoup 15% is going to raise the fees significantly, and we're still, you know, there's still a huge variance as to what we're recouping. Now, it shouldn't be 100% recouping, because that, I mean, that just doesn't make sense. But with the popularity of Port Orange, we're at 61,000 roughly now, which is bringing more kids in to do more recreational programs, and we still have to try to balance. The balance is the problem, is trying to balance the recreational use with the partnerships and make it all work. And I don't know how you do that. Josh and them over there with the scheduling, it's got to just be crazy trying to get everybody scheduled and just keeping track of that all. It's just mind-boggling. But people mention, you know, the tax rate, and we did have a tax increase, but if, to my knowledge, I think at 4.48 and some change, we're still about the third lowest maybe in the county. And, you know, our neighbors, I don't know exactly what all the other cities are charging for rec fees, and I'm sure we're close in line, or, you know, fairly similar, but they're also bringing in over 2 more mills than we are. They're South Daytona are well over 6, closer to 7. And that's, you know, that's not something where we're going or where we want to go. Trying to keep everything affordable, and the balance is the difficult part in this, and try to make it all work. It's just very difficult to provide added programs, added infrastructure, and Scott's right. How are you going to pay for it? Where's the money coming from for either additional land or infrastructure or time? You can't buy time. So I mean, this is a tough one. I'd agree. It's tough on y'all. It's tough on us too.
Chase?
Oh, man. Well, I appreciate also the comments. Several, you know, well-respected coaches come up, longtime friends I've known for a long time. You know, I understand that as best as anybody about it being an investment of the kids. I've been coaching for a long time, about 19 years now. 10 years right here in Port Orange. I coach at Spruce Creek. I'm the current head basketball coach at Spruce Creek High. I've coached baseball there, and I've coached volleyball there as well. And I grew up through this rec department. I coached travel ball, competitive leagues in Augusta and in Atlanta. I completely understand the situation. And if I were in your position, I'd be saying the same thing. Exactly as you are, I'd have been in the crowd. And frankly, as a dad who has his daughters come up through here, and one went to Puerto Rico and participates, it's in my best interest to not waive or to not raise any fees. It would benefit me. It will hurt me, and I'm a paycheck to paycheck guy, and those tax increases hurt me big time. Nevertheless, I can't look at it from that perspective. I have to look at it from a budgetary, fiscal responsible perspective. I don't know, you know, I don't know of any, and again, and I agree, there is no price tag on the investment. My issue is that can be said with any fee waiver, any reduction that comes before us. Every time someone comes up and asks for a fee waiver or reduction or not to increase something, it would be an investment, whether it be an investment in their church, investment in their business, an investment in their nonprofit, and all sorts of great things. The question I've got to look at the end of the day is, what is our duty? What is our role at the local government? Our local government's role is to provide parks and rec. That's it. It's not to provide a competitive environment to prepare people for college. It's not. I'd love it to be, but that's currently not our role. If we change that that mindset, then we have a different direction. And nobody, and I don't believe, you know, with respect, that wanting to balance our books a little better would indicate that we're against youth sports. And you know, my dad coached going back to 1967 right here in Volusia County. Long time. So nobody is more in favor of youth sports. I have to look at it from the perspective as the city government's role in what we're supposed to do, how we're supposed to allocate our funds. And when it comes down to it, I don't know of another city around that does partnerships like this. I just don't know of any. There might be a few, but I just know that when I was in Atlanta coaching AAU or Augusta, and I went to City Hall and asked them to partner and subsidize my program at 90%, they'd laugh me out. That's just the fact of it. With that being said, I'm still not willing to give up our partnership. But as Councilman Stiltner pointed out, and it was in the presentation as well, if our role is to provide Parks and Rec, and our cost recovery rate is 30%, and a private organization is yielding in 10%, it's out of balance. Now, I'm not interested in raising it up 60% and pricing people out from the get-go, but I think there has to be a balance if we're going to partner up, and that's where I'm at right now.
Councilman Wiles. Go ahead, Jack.
No, first of all, I want to thank all the partners who came out and met with us at the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. They really participated, you know, heavily and told us all the great things they did in the community, and certainly getting the girls and the boys, the kids off the street and bringing them to a higher level is, you can't really have a more satisfying feeling than doing that as a coach and as a team. So certainly appreciate all they do. But as some of you said, I think Scott particularly, you know, what we were looking at was sustainability. You know, if we continue down the path of where we were, the program's just going to fold. I mean, we just couldn't do it. So we're trying to inch it up slowly, and I think the partners that were there, I know this is painful. You know, anytime you raise fees, it's painful, but I think they understand that it's going to have to be ratcheted up, at least to where eventually where the Parks and Rec participants pay at the 30%. And I think that's something this council and the Parks and Rec Advisory Board will have to look at some point. Again, we're going to look at it again, I think, next year. But the whole point is, if you think about the $2,800 from a financial standpoint, you know, that the increase, you know, based on the number of players all of these teams have, if you break it down from a financial standpoint, you're really talking about the lowest number of players that we have, which is, I think, 273 players in Port Orange volleyball. I believe that's what you guys have. How many do you have? 273, is that right? I wish, no. No, how many do you have? We have like 70 kids. 70, okay. Take 70 into the 2,800, and that's what it's going to cost each player per year. So it's about, what is that?
40 bucks.
40 bucks, right? Mm-hmm. So about 40 bucks a player. So, you know, looking at 40 bucks a player annually, that's what it really breaks down to. So that's what we're really talking about. $2,800 sounds like a lot of money, but when you break it down per player, it's 40 bucks. When you take the largest group and break it down, it's really only $30 per player. So, I mean, I think parents, to get their kids to play at a higher level, certainly I coached for 12 years. I've coached, you know, competitive ball for a number of years with the Blazers Fast Pitch. We had to go out and raise money through sponsorships, and we did that on a regular basis. The girls, you know, they went out and raised money. And then, you know, of course, the parents subsidized where they could too. So, you know, it can work. It's just going to take a little more work, I think, and we've got to, I think this is a good starting place. To the Port Orange volleyball, you know, we talked about fields, but we need to talk about the gym too, which I think Port Orange volleyball brought up. I think our gym rates are much higher than our field rates, but we're charging Port Orange volleyball field rates, so they're getting a break of about 75% of what the gym rate is. So they're already getting a large discount compared to the fields. So just putting everything in perspective, I think this is a good first start, first swipe at it. I hope that we don't lose any partners. We certainly value everything you guys do, and certainly value teaching our kids here in Port Orange, particularly sports at a higher level so they can compete and bring back trophies. There is one caveat to this. I would like to see you guys do more tournaments here in Port Orange, because there is a huge economic impact to that. So if you can work it out where you can get some field time, part of your time that you have, and do tournaments, you can generate a lot of income, have an economic impact to the city, and make some money for the organization, so you can do more travel. And put the girls up in hotel rooms and the guys up in hotel rooms. So when you go play tournaments, you can pay that tournament fee and do a lot of things, and you can pay this little slight increase. But tournaments is the key. Put on some tournaments. So thank you for all you do, and we appreciate your input tonight.
This is difficult for me for a lot of reasons. Certainly, I've been on the fields with my kids doing Pop Warner with baseball and the like, and it wasn't that long ago, despite what some people think with my impending birthday. Last year was probably the toughest from a budgetary standpoint that I went through in years, and a lot of that had to do with the $11 million that we spent on one hurricane, the $8 million we spent on another hurricane, and those blew giant holes in last year's budget, and yet somehow we wanted to at least hold the line on the services that we provide across the board for our citizens, not just Parks and Rec, public safety and the like. All those things are important. And this is tough for me because I also recognize that while we need more cost participation, so we're not going back to the taxpayers one more time, I just can't do that after what we've done the last couple of years. I also realize that if we go too far with it, we can break some people's backs. So we have to be very careful. Staying where we are was not the answer, because it just wasn't fiscally responsible for us. But we have to consider the total impact of these programs, because quite frankly, if those programs don't exist and we do break their back, we still have to maintain those fields. We still own them, and we have absolutely, and that actually creates a cost for us. So that's a consideration as well. This is a tough one for me. We have to do this in a fashion that's going to be sustainable, and we have to do it in a fashion that's fair to the taxpayer. We have to be fair to the teams involved, because we can't go too far, no matter what our needs are. I don't want to be unfair to them, but this is a terrific balancing act. But I'm not just doing this. I want you all to know that my consideration goes beyond just what the impact of these programs are on our kids in Parks and Rec, as important as that is. I'm taking a look at the entire budgetary process, the entire impact on the community. It all matters. We can't just consider this one thing. It all matters, and that is it's very difficult. It's very tough. We have to balance that as a council, and that's what our responsibility is. Any other comments, council? Call the roll.
Councilman Miles.
Yes.
Councilman Bastian.
Yes.
Councilman Stittner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Tremont.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
No. 4-1. Resolution 19-10, authority to reserve and transfer 7.02 federal wetland mitigation bank credits for Reclaim Lakes project.
Motion to approve resolution
Hold
19.
on, let me read it. I clicked off it.
You had a
by
pause
mistake.
there. I thought you were.
Yeah.
I did. That was me
Computer fell
clicking
asleep.
off it for.
I was on.
We also
so,
need the
yeah.
other motion.
And
too.
Robin signaling.
I got you.
Yeah.
Margaret.
Just want to make sure you read the updated one.
Is the updated one on the website?
Nope.
No, I've got a. Am I just gonna do-
7.03.
So we don't have to read an updated one, right? Just read it second after I read the first one.
Yes,
All right.
to Chase.
Resolution of the City Council of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, approving the reservation and transfer of 7.02 federal wetland.
703.
7.03, that's the correction.
703.
Federal Wetland Mitigation Bank credits for the Reclaim Lakes project, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute any and all required documents on behalf of the City of Port Orange and providing for an effective date.
Move to approve resolution number 19-10. Is that the right one?
Mm-hmm.
That's correct.
And now,
Also, I'm seeking a motion on the approval of the conservation easement that is required by the permit for this project. We are at the tail end of the project now. It began 17 short years ago.
Let me get a second on this motion.
so just say so moved?
I'll second that one.
No, you need to second that motion. Now you can make this motion.
So moved on Margaret's recommendation.
And that is a motion to approve Resolution 1910, which you've covered. Excuse me. And we have another one that says, and to approve the conservation easement for the 88.207 acres as required by permit number SAJ 2002-3473 MLH.
And that's your amendment to the
Motion
motion?
to approve everything Margaret just said.
That's your amendment to the motion?
Yes.
That's an amendment to the main motion.
And I'll second mine.
That's a second to the amendment to the main motion.
Margaret, don't ever ask me to do that again, please.
Check.
I have no idea what y'all just did there. I did not follow that in the least.
It was like a start over.
I would love to just have two motions.
We-
One to approve the resolution and one to approve the conservation easement for 88.207 acres as required by permit number that Margaret just mentioned,
Yes,
which is what she put in the
yes,
email to you guys.
There was a motion made.
yes,
wasn't
One and
Yes.
two.
yes. Is that not what we did?
I made both
That's not what
motions
I
and
heard,
Drew
but-
seconded
Okay.
both motions.
I made him, he motioned to approve the first one, and I made him, they started jumping the gun. I stopped it so he could
So I seconded
second
that
that
one.
motion. Then Margaret read what we were going to amend that with the.
But don't amend, just go
Don't
with the
amend.
second
Okay.
motion.
It's a separate motion.
Two separate motions. Is that what you did?
We can do that.
Yep.
Is that what you seconded?
That's what he said.
I
That's what I
seconded two separate motions.
Okay. So we have two separate motions on the floor.
Correct.
Who's presenting?
I will present on that one.
Okay, please.
We are wrapping up the Reclaim Lake project as a part of the final conditions that were required in the permit as originally issued in 2002. We are required to pass a resolution providing for the transfer of mitigation credits. This is for wetland. There is an impact to the wetlands. We are preserving 88.207 acres, and the conservation easement will cover over that 88.207 acres to achieve that protection of additional wetlands for the small amount of impact those reclaimed lakes had. So we're kind of a give and take here to get this project completed, and so that's what the two motions are for tonight.
So the first motion was to transfer 7.03 wetland mitigation credits. And the second motion was an execution recording the conservation easement as described.
That's correct.
Okay. And sorry, I just wanted to do that to summarize.
And happy to answer any
Council
questions.
comments or questions?
Where do you want to start, Jack?
I'm looking around, and I'm not seeing any of y'all jumping into the pond,
have
so.
any.
With that, would anyone here care to speak to this? Nobody out there's jumping into this pond either. Okay, that comes back to us. Council, final comments? Jack, anything?
No, thank you.
Chase?
No, Mayor.
Drew?
No.
Scott?
No.
Call the roll.
Councilman Wiles?
Yes.
Oh, wait a second, my apologies. On the first motion
Yes.
to approve
1910.
1910, thank you. Now,
All right. Councilman Wiles?
Yes.
Councilman Baxter?
Yes.
Councilman Silver?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Tremont?
Yes.
Mayor Burnett?
yes, 5-0. On the second motion in regards to the conservation easement.
Councilman Wiles?
Yes.
Councilman Baxter?
Yes.
Councilman Silver?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Tremont?
Yes.
Mayor Burnett?
Yes.
Thank you,
5-0.
council.
Whew, we got through that.
City attorney,
No reports this evening.
city manager.
Mayor, Council, the actuarial presentations that, or the actuarial reports are starting to trickle in. And it's been council's request in the past that they enjoy those reports at a council meeting. However, I noticed in the last one, they weren't as enjoyable as we thought they'd be. So I offer up to you a couple different ways to do that. Either bring them to council and present them as we have in the past, provide you the full report with a summary to be read or placed in the report for public record, and you all can read them at your own leisure, or a little out of the box thinking, I can have them record the presentation and you all can watch it and everybody can watch it online at their leisure. Up to you. I look forward to whichever way you prefer to do it.
Personally, I think it's too important for us to simply have it reported to us on paper for us to read. I think there has to be some form of presentation and discussion at council. How you guys want to do that is
Not
up to
required,
you.
but I understand that
Your-
you are interested.
That's my sentiment.
Yep.
Council, what are your thoughts?
I like having them here.
You like having the actuaries here?
Yes.
Scott?
Yeah, I mean, they don't come that frequently, so I mean, I think it's true.
It's once a year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chase?
Go ahead. Hold on.
No, so go ahead, and then I'll ask the following question. I think it's important.
Yeah, no, frankly, I'm indifferent about it. I can check it out on my own. I have enough meetings with the manager to discuss anything that needs to be discussed, but I'm fine having it here as well.
Jack, you have a preference?
When would the date be that we would have in here?
They'll trickle in and we'll
Depends on
schedule
when
them
we
up.
can coordinate it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I may or may not be here, so.
Might be in April.
Whether you're
whatever the
speaking for you,
council-
you're still speaking for the
support it.
district.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would think that being here would probably be more appropriate.
Okay.
Okay. Now, so my following question is, the format seems to get a little bit deep. Were you happy with the format last year? If not, I can give you the dates that they were provided so you can watch them. And, or were they understandable to the point where you want them in the same format? Would you like more of an executive summary? Each one lasted, we asked them to go 20. They lasted from 30 to 40. And by glazed
three of
eyes
them
in
went
the
three
audience, it
different
seemed like people were done in 10. So over to you for your thoughts on that.
They've got to be able to tighten it up because all three of them took it in three different directions.
Yeah.
And that's difficult.
So wave top summary of where we are, where we're going, and how we got there.
Right.
We're getting the reports. If we've got some
Absolutely.
deep dive questions, we can ask them because we'll have those reports
Absolutely.
in advance to examine.
Okay.
Yeah, I think 20 minutes is appropriate.
I think in 10 minutes each.
I said 10.
Oh,
so-
10. Oh, well, we don't want 30 or 40, but.
Yeah,
No,
I'll try to limit
we
them to
can-
10, knowing they'll go 15, and then you all can ask the questions.
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay.
And I'll try not to put them all on the same agenda.
Are we
And it's hard to
determined?
do, so.
Yep. Do we agree?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, secondly, just to put in the public record that we have gotten a lot of phone calls about, well, there's been a lot of conversation about solicitation and permits for solicitation. The staff's looking into that for council. There's been a lot of discussion about the traffic on Taylor Road as it relates to school. The queue, if you will, into Spruce Creek Elementary, and to a lesser extent, but equally as important, the high school. I'll talk to Tim a little bit about what our options are for changing the lanes up there, not changing them, but increasing the lanes. But we're also talking with Chief about parking in subdivisions as a pickup point. So we'll bring that to you as well. And the last thing was the actuarial. So we're all set. That's all I had. And there's one other thing that Robin.
It's on your list, Mayor. I just wanted to go over the council meeting schedule for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, it is a little.
It's on my list. But I'm going to come to you for it now since, but I'm going to do that at the very end. City Council Committee reports over to CTPO.
We had a meeting Tuesday last week?
Wednesday.
Wednesday, yeah. Thank you. Were you there?
No.
Oh, just checking. Pretty neat presentation about roundabouts, actually, and how they are growing in popularity. But what was really interesting was the incredible results in significant crash data when they install these roundabouts in locations that have unusually high amounts of vehicle crashes and fatalities. So I don't know that we have a lot of places in our city that fit those types of things, but I think you're going to start seeing a lot more of them around the state of Florida. So as you're traveling the state, that'll probably be something you'll see on. But pretty neat presentation. Also a presentation on crash data in this particular region, talking about the top 20 crash locations for our DOT region, and then how to utilize that data for future funding for traffic safety and management programs. So pretty interesting stuff there. A lot of good discussion, a lot of good questions into that. So that's about it for that one.
Okay. General Employees Pension Plan.
I talked about that at the last council meeting. We haven't met since.
That's right. Police Pension Plan.
That's mine. We had a meeting on February 19th, so we're about 5 weeks past that, 6 weeks. They had a very good fiscal year ending September 30th. The net rate of return was 8.5. And then a very bad quarter from September 30th, or October 1st to December 31st, where they lost about 3.4 million. They were down, they took in 8.5, they were down 8.89. So the value on December 31st was 35.4 million roughly. And on September 30th, it was 38.6. They lost roughly 3.4 million. However, from January 1st, 19 to the numbers as of 2/20/19, they'd gotten back over 2.8 million of the loss. So the net loss for that plan was about $590,000. And the plan is still funded very well, and everything's going good. So that, those ups and downs are coming, and they're bound to happen. But when you look at a staggering loss, oh my God, 3.4 million. Well, they got back 2.8 in a short time. So that's just going to happen. But the plan continues to trend in the right direction, and it's still well funded. They're able to pay their bills, and the rate of return was lowered. Again, the assumed rate of return for the upcoming year will be 7.35. They've come a long way, because it was 8.5 and then 8, and then it's been ratcheting down, as have all the other plans have been ratcheting down the assumed rate of return to something that's more achievable long term. So, where the plan sits is roughly right about 38 million, $38.1 million right now, and they're roughly 70% funded.
Okay. Which brings us to the final point, scheduling items. Not all of you are going to be able to be there Saturday morning, are you?
Planning to be.
Oh, the base, yeah, no. We're going to throw out a baseball Saturday morning. Kick off the baseball season.
Drew coincides with Bike Week. It's the
Oh,
first
right.
time I missed.
Oh, yeah. My throwing hand's
I'll be at the Speedway.
I'll take Drew's baseball.
You're lefty?
No, I'm saying my throwing hand's fine.
Oh, okay. I thought you said you're throwing.
Council meeting schedule. We normally meet on the third Tuesday of the month. This month we are not, because we're going to be up in Tallahassee trying to bring back more money for a flood control project again this year, and a rec project. So we'll be up there lobbying our, well, I should say lobby, not just our representatives, but all the representatives we need to make contact with. So we will not meet again until the 4th Tuesday of March, which is 3 weeks from today, which is the 26th of March.
That is correct, and that is only CRA meeting at 5 o'clock.
CRA's at 5 o'clock,
26th.
regular council.
CRA meetings 5 o'clock.
Do we have regular council business?
Nope, nope.
Jake, how'd you do that?
Bada bing.
Because it's only a week later than
I think,
council,
I would think you would.
Okay.
Yes.
We may set a record at that meeting.
Yes.
You said you were gonna set a record tonight.
Yeah, you can.
I don't know about
Yeah,
that.
it's CRA,
Robin,
so we're
Just a
good.
question.
Anything else come before us this
Hang
evening?
on one quick
What?
second. CRA meeting, that's not a council meeting?
Yes.
That is part of you though. You are
Yeah.
part of that.
Okay, I'm just
Yes.
curious.
5
All right.
o'clock on the 26th.
No, it's another hat you wear we didn't let you know
Yeah,
about.
that's another
Before you
hat
offered
you
to
got.
take the job.
You didn't tell me about that.
You were drafted. Anything
Welcome.
else come before us this evening? If not, have a good night. We'll see you all in 3 weeks.
Thank you.